Dead internet theory posits that at some point in the future, or maybe it's already happened, the majority of internet activity will be driven entirely by AI bots with no human interaction. So the idea being that bots will be creating content and then they'll be consuming that content and engaging with it and sharing it to each other, and humans won't be a part of the equation at all. Now, there's lots of conspiracy theories that use the same name, the same idea of dead internet theory, and they say that, different groups are behind it, whether it's a government, whether it's a corporation, whether it's some shadowy cabal, and that they're using it to manipulate the populace. And I don't really go in for conspiracy theories. I generally think people are quite bad at keeping secrets, so things like that would come out pretty quickly. But it is hard to argue with the idea that bot activity on the internet is rising, and there's a decent chance that there's a lot of stuff going on between bots on the internet that we aren't really a part of. And I think that's going to dramatically change the way we use the internet and media in general. So Facebook's a good example of this. On Facebook, lots of people don't really share anything anymore. But back in the heyday of it, back when Facebook was super popular, people used to share their life updates. So they would post pictures of things that were happening, or they would post pictures of things that they'd created that they were proud of. And then other people would respond to that. And normally at first it was like your friends. So your friends and family, people you knew in real life, they would respond to it. They'd like it, they'd leave comments and stuff. And then over time, it shifted to people who maybe you don't know very much getting served up this content. It's the algorithm, the thing that we're very used to with things like Twitter and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, where Facebook would decide, hey, you like this kind of content. We know you don't know this person, but I'm going to show you anyway. Maybe you'll like it. And people started getting comments, and some people noticed, hey, some of these comments are kind of weird. They don't make a lot of sense. And that's because they were AI bots. And Facebook apparently has actually admitted to using bots. So they'll say if some sort of content isn't really getting any engagement, especially if someone asks a question in content, they'll actually make a bot create a response. So then someone will give them an answer. Because if someone posts stuff in Facebook and gets no engagement at all, they're unlikely to use the service again. They're unlikely to come back to the site. So by using bots in this way, it kind of encourages them to stay using the site. It encourages them that someone's listening. But then recently on Facebook, people have started noticing some weird posts where the actual messages don't seem to make any sense. And then there'll be an image that's obviously created by AI. It's using DALL-E or something like that. So it's creating these AI images that don't make any sense. Normal human people wouldn't care about them and wouldn't be interested in them. But then the comments are filled with people that seem to be responding to the images as if they're real works of art or as if they're real images. These are things that normal people would never ever be fooled by. And what seems to be happening here is that there are bots creating this content. So bots are like, okay, people seem to be liking pictures about whatever it is, religion and America and whatever it is. And then it's putting those prompts into an AI art generator, posting the results on Facebook. And then while real humans aren't responding to it because they're just looking at it and being like, oh, that's just trash that's created by an AI. The AI bots can't tell the difference, so they're engaging with it, and that actually pushes the posts up in the algorithm. It's trying to get sort of sent to more and more people because they're like, hey, this picture's super popular. Even though it was created by AI and it's only being engaged with by AI, it's still being seen as popular by the algorithm, so being sent to more people. And it's kind of easy to understand why social media sites would do this. Most of their revenue comes from advertising, and advertisers want to see engagement. Advertisers want to know that if they say, hey, we want you to send this picture or this video to however many people, they want to know that the social media platform can deliver on that, can show it to a certain number of people, and that there'll be people who are engaged, people who are leaving comments, people who are liking things. So if a social media platform like Facebook, for example, doesn't actually have that many real people using it anymore, but they still want to get that money from the advertisers, they could maybe use bots to fill out the stats and say, hey, look, millions of things are being posted every day and billions of comments are being left on all of these posts every single day. There's tons of engagement here. Our platform's very much alive. Please spend your advertising money with us. And then in the sort of social media content creation and streaming space that I work in with YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and things like that and Twitter, The similar thing kind of happens with content creators. So we often get a lot of our money from sponsorship. So a company will come to us and say, hey, we want you to feature our video game, our product, whatever it is. This is the deliverable that we want, whether that's like a 30-second video embedded in a longer one, or sometimes it'll be like, okay, we want our logo on your stream, and then they'll offer us a certain amount of money. And if you don't have that many viewers or you don't have very high engagement, they won't offer you very much money because they know not many people are going to really notice their advert. And if you have a lot of viewers or a lot of engagement, they'll offer you a lot more money, considerably more money. You know, I heard rumors of people being paid £10,000 just to stream Call of Duty when a new Call of Duty game came out, which is a huge amount of money. That's a significant amount of money just to stream a video game for a couple of hours. So people who maybe don't have that many viewers, who don't have that much engagement, could be tempted to maybe use bots to fill in the gaps, to say, okay, normally I only have 50 viewers watching my streams, but if I use bots to pad those numbers out, follow bots, view bots, and then it looks like I have 1,000 people watching my stream, advertisers are more likely to spend more money on my channel. And what about if those bots actually chat quite a lot? What if they say a lot of stuff in chat so I can show the engagement rate is pretty high on all of my different channels? Then the advertisers are going to be like, oh, this person has loads of people watching, loads of chat, they're paying attention to what they're doing, we're going to offer them more money. You can kind of see where that temptation would lay. Of course, the problem comes when the truth is discovered. If a social media platform, it's revealed that a lot of their activity isn't really real, like when Elon Musk took over Twitter and Twitter said 5% of the activity on our site is bots, and Elon Musk said, I think this is actually a lot higher than that. Or with a content creator, it's often very, very easy to see when they're being view botting. You know, if you're watching someone who apparently has 1,000 viewers on Twitch, and then you actually go into their Twitch stream and there hasn't been a real chat message for like half an hour, or the chat messages that are there are just kind of a mess of things that don't seem to really be relevant to what's going on in the stream, you can be pretty sure they're view botting and they're follow botting. And at the moment, most kind of sponsorship companies, most people looking to do a deal with streamers are pretty good at noticing those kind of things. They're pretty good at working out which streamers have a real following and which streamers are just using kind of view botting and stuff like that. So they won't be tricked into giving those sponsorships out. The problem comes from there being more and more kind of sophisticated bots. While it's very easy to tell now if a viewer isn't real, that might change within a few months, within a year, within 2 years. As these bots get better and cheaper to run, then it could be that eventually it's almost impossible to tell. Maybe they will be able to react to what's going on screen, or what the streamer is saying, or what the different bots are talking about. And as they get more sophisticated on both sort of social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook and Reddit, and in streams, people aren't going to be able to tell the difference between the real people and the bots. So in terms of advertisers wanting to spend money, it'll be basically impossible to separate them. So it'll almost become the sort of thing where it's like, okay, this makes sense to do for a streamer. This makes sense to do as a content creator or as a social media platform, because no one's ever going to find out. And I think we're already reaching the point where content itself is actually generated by bots, not just the engagement. So whether it's tweets on Twitter, I'm never going to call them posts on X or whatever you're meant to say now, Reddit posts, or even videos and streams on YouTube. I'm sure we've all seen some of that AI-driven content. So on YouTube, sometimes, you know, when channels get hacked, like when Linus Tech Tips got hacked, and they do these Elon Musk giving away crypto streams where they'll have an ongoing stream for ages and it'll be Elon Musk talking about how he's giving away loads of crypto. And the whole thing is entirely automated. There isn't a person trying to sort of individually set this up. It's just a scam that relies on there being loads of channels playing this, and maybe they'll find one gullible human who's willing to send them some money. Or, you know, I'm quite interested in all space stuff, and you'll often find if you go onto YouTube channels, some of these streams that are just replaying old space launches and saying it's happening right now to try and get people watching, to try and get some of that money you get from adverts and stuff from just posting on YouTube. If you go on things like Instagram and TikTok and things like that, you will see some posts that are just created by AI. They'll just be using whatever the trending audio is. They'll be using a little snippet of stock footage, and they'll just be creating stuff that doesn't matter. You know, they'll just be creating content that has no essence to it, no sort of soul to it, no creativity to it. It's just content that they can put out because some people will watch it, some people will like it, and if they've got bots engaging with it, then the quality of it doesn't really matter that much. And it happens on Reddit, it's happening on Twitter. The whole thing that got me thinking about all of this was when I was scrolling through Twitter and I was thinking, there's tons of stuff on here that's just making me feel angry. There's tons of people posting stuff that's just obvious nonsense, like flat earth stuff and things like that. And I was thinking, this could all just be AI. I've got no reason to think that there are real people who have these kind of opinions. I've got no reason to think that there are real people that would want to post this. It could just be a bot posting all of this stuff, and then Twitter's like, hey, this will rile this person up. This will get them to keep on scrolling, keep on looking, maybe even reply to argue with some of these things. And they could just keep creating that kind of cycle to lock you in where it's like, hey, you've just responded to this comment and, you've been very angry about it. Now, here's another thing that's going to make you angry. Here's another thing that's obviously factually incorrect because it's going to keep you locked into that platform. It's like creating your own personal hell, but, they call it X now. There's even some much more sophisticated things. So we look at a lot of travel videos. If we're going to a new city, we're going to a new country, we'll look at videos that'll be like the 10 best things to do in this city or the 10 best hotels in this area. And often we'll find videos that are precisely what we were looking for, but then when you watch them, it seems to be an AI voice talking through the Wikipedia page entry or the TripAdvisor reviews for a place with a load of photos that are obviously just the most popular photos on a Google image search for that place, or again taken from TripAdvisor or something. They seem to be entirely AI driven, where essentially someone's got a bot to be like, okay, do this, like we've set up this sort of schema, we've set up this template for creating a video and we're going to apply it to every city in the US or every city in Europe. And then whenever anyone searches for it, it will pop up high up in the results because it's exactly what you're looking for. And it does technically do the job. It does technically show you a bunch of the most popular hotels, or it does show you a bunch of the most popular areas. So there's probably a lot of people who watch that video and are like, oh, that was perfect. That's just what I wanted. I'll leave a like. I'll watch it all the way through. And it's just AI content. It's just created by bots. There's no person behind it. There's no reason to think that it's authentic in any way. There's no reason to think that it's reliable in any way. But in a lot of cases, that doesn't really matter. And it's a really difficult problem to solve. Like, the more sophisticated AI gets, the more realistic all of this stuff is, and the more of a potential impact it could have. So from poor products and destinations getting good reviews that maybe they don't deserve and kind of tricking consumers into spending money to go places that are terrible, or to buy things that are terrible, you could even imagine big parts of the population getting manipulated into like turning on a certain group in society, thinking that, oh, well, all of these other people are saying that these people are bad. Look at all of these posts saying that this group of people are bad. I should agree with them too. I don't want to be the one left out. The fear of missing out, the FOMO effect, I think is very, very real. And people might see, oh, look, there's like thousands of people supporting this particular cause. It must be a good cause. It must be a good idea. And they get wrapped up in this. And obviously there's been loads of stuff in the news of like Russian bot accounts being used to kind of shift popular perception on things like, presidential elections or on the Brexit vote or the German elections, where it seems like there are these bot farms being used to try and kind of shift public opinion. And as the AI gets more sophisticated, the more this is going to happen, where you've got AI bots posting things that are probably quite maybe controversial or just factually completely wrong. And then, whereas normally a person would look at that and be like, oh, well, that person's clearly an idiot, nobody's agreed with them. If you've also got bots responding to all of that stuff, saying, yeah, this is a great point. Yeah, I've heard about this. In my personal experience, this has happened too. Then normal people might get sucked into it. Normal people might be like, oh, there's something to this. There's lots of people supporting this idea. And that's a kind of scary thought. So how does all of this relate to gaming? I run a gaming channel. I do a thing about Call of Duty. What's the dead internet theory got to do with gaming? Many games thrive or die almost entirely based on player populations. A game like Palworld or Helldivers 2 or Fall Guys or Among Us can absolutely come out of nowhere and take over the internet because everyone else is playing it. And I'm guilty of this too. I will see a game that's at the top of the charts on Twitch or Steam charts, Everyone seems to be playing it. Everyone seems to be talking about it on Twitter, and I'll check it out. I'm more likely to spend money on it. I'm more likely to play it just because I'm like, oh, well, that game must be super exciting. Otherwise, why would so many people be playing it? And on the other hand, lots of games die because there's just nobody playing it. Lots of games, particularly multiplayer games, if there's not a healthy player population, then servers can't be filled, matchmaking doesn't work properly, you end up playing against the same people all the time. Often those people will be extremely good at the game because if there's a small community, you're normally left with the most hardcore players. And then for a new player trying to get into that game, it's just basically impossible. So people keep on getting bored from it, they dwindle off, and then the player population dies and the game completely dies. So there's a serious incentive, just like there was for sort of social media platforms or content creators, for video game developers and publishers to maybe try and inflate the number of people playing their games, to try and make it seem like the games are more popular than they are. And obviously using bots, using AI, there's a few different ways they can do that. They can do all the same sort of things as we've already been talking about on social media. So they can use things like posts about it on Twitter, hashtags trending, videos being made on Instagram and TikTok. They can do all of that kind of stuff just to try and make the game look more popular. Of course, there's lots of legitimate ways they can do it too. So lots of companies use things like Twitch drops. So I'll often see people saying, oh, I've seen this new game, it's at the top of the charts for Twitch. And then you look and there's some really generous Twitch drop situation where it's like, oh, if you watch an hour of this game, then you get access to the game yourself. Of course, that's going to lead to lots more people wanting to watch it on Twitch. Or they might do things like giveaways. They might do things like paying really popular streamers to stream it. You know, if you can pay someone who's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers or millions of subscribers to stream or make content on your game, then more people are going to be aware of it. More people are going to watch it. That's just advertising. So that's kind of fine. And then there's some kind of slightly less honest ways of doing this where, you know, maybe like the Black Ops 6 trailer even. Lots of people talked about the fact that that was one of the most watched Call of Duty trailers of all time. And Mr. Waffle Waffles did a tweet pointing out very quickly that that might have been because that video was actually being used as an advert on YouTube. And that means it's just getting sent to people who didn't want to watch that advert, but it still counts as a view for that video. So it's getting served to lots and lots of people. People weren't choosing to watch the trailer. It had just had a lot of money put behind it, so it was getting sent to lots of people. That's, you know, not necessarily ethically wrong, but it's maybe a tiny bit misleading. But then, of course, games can use AI. So games can use bots. So they can maybe fill out their player counts. If you play something like Warzone Mobile or Fortnite, you've almost definitely seen this already. That if you're playing a game, maybe at a weird time or you're in a low population area, a lot of the enemies you're coming up against won't be real players. They'll just be bots. Sometimes it's super obvious when they're bots, you know, like on Battlefield 2042. I think it actually gives them like a clan tag of AI or something like that. But in games like Fortnite and Warzone Mobile, it's kind of hard to tell, especially if you don't sort of observe them for a little while. But there's nothing in their name or anything like that that gives them away, as far as I'm aware at least, that they're bots. So people might play it being like, oh, this game's great. There's loads of people playing. I can get a game any time of the day, even if I'm in a low sort of player area. So somewhere, you know, like playing in South Africa or playing in Australia in off-peak times or something like that. If you can constantly get full lobbies, you might be tempted to think, oh, this game's quite popular. There's a lot of people playing it. Now, this could be taken to an extreme. Using the more sophisticated AI, you know, right now, bots in a game, if you're a decent player, you can probably tell fairly quickly whether they're bots or not, and often it's not as satisfying to play against bots, although I have done another video about why I think bots in gaming are actually probably a good thing. But anyway, aside from that, if you've got more sophisticated AI, you could go a bit further and you could actually have an entire player population that's mostly AI driven. So you could have, say, bots that are much more convincing, that look like real people, could even type in chat like real people, because obviously you have AI chat models and things like that. And maybe they could all be spending a lot of money on cosmetics. So then normal players will be playing the game and be like, why is everyone else using these fancy cosmetics? And it goes back to that fear of missing out thing. They'll be like, oh, if everyone else is doing it, maybe it's okay for me to be doing it too. Maybe it's okay to spend £20 on a skin to make my character look a little bit different. You can see why a game publisher might want to do that. What appears to be the most popular game in the world, with gamers constantly spending tons of money on microtransactions, might actually be a complete graveyard. It might just be mostly bots playing against each other, with a few real players in there, kind of lost, living in this kind of dream world, thinking, oh, this is a really popular game, I'm having a great time against all of these other people, when really there's no one else there. And obviously this could be used to manipulate the player into thinking that they're getting a lot better. The game could just keep on tweaking the difficulty of the bots a little bit to keep on making the gamer think, oh yeah, you're getting really good at this, look at this, you're getting the high kill records, you're doing really amazingly, just to kind of keep them in there, completely manipulating their experience in order to sort of, you know, make them enjoy the game, which doesn't sound like too much of a bad thing, but also maybe to try and get them to invest in the game a bit more. Because if you find a game that you're super good at, you're probably more likely to buy the battle pass or buy some cosmetics or things like that. And taking this a little bit further, and we've already taken it quite far, imagine that simple games could actually be created by AI. I don't think we're there yet. I'm sure it will happen at some point. Maybe quite simplistic games and quite bad games. But if entire games could be created by AI in the same way that at the moment, you know, some videos are being created by AI, they could shoot to the top of the Steam charts, being supported entirely by bot networks that are playing the game and talking about the game and streaming the game on Twitch and YouTube and commenting on those Twitch and YouTube streams, leaving sort of notes in the Steam forums, leaving reviews everywhere. All of this could be driven by bots to the point where normal people will load up Steam, see a new game that's apparently overwhelmingly positive, looks absolutely incredible, everyone's raving about it, they could be tempted to maybe pick it up, and then when they play it, they might even be a little bit worried about saying, oh, this is terrible, like this is awful, because everyone else is being positive about it, so they might think, oh, maybe I just haven't got it yet, maybe I haven't quite understood it yet, and they can maybe keep it going until like you're more than 2 hours in past the refund window before you really realise, oh, this whole thing's a con and there's no other humans here. I can easily imagine stuff like that happening. I don't think it's happened yet. I don't think we've seen an AI game that's been released on Steam that's been sort of, you know, positively review bombed by bots and it's tricked people into buying it. But I can easily imagine it happening, and not in the sort of too distant future. So I'm not saying that we're there yet, but I do find dead internet theory interesting. I find the idea that humans are rapidly becoming kind of ancillary to the main function of the internet kind of interesting, and that maybe while we come to the internet to get advice on what games to play, what movies to watch, we try and have communication with other people, you know, we have discussions with people, we find out what people think about it, we get the news and all of that kind of thing. Very quickly, all of that could be fake. All of that could be replaced. And I think it will be quite hard to tell what's real and what's not. And I do wonder if the solution is maybe just to cut off from the internet entirely, that people will start not trusting anything they see on the internet at all, and instead will go back to, you know, seeing people in real life and going to shows and going to events in person where they know they're interacting with real people. That wouldn't be too bad, would it?